I'm Richard Fitzgerald. This is Dubai Works, where we interview the business leaders making a difference in this great city.
That business with scalability was very interesting to me.
I like building something that has legacy.
So I'm back in studio this week. I was away last week. We recorded an episode and it will be the same next week. Next week's guest is really good, by the way. But so is today's guest. Bear with this conversation. We talk a lot about what TekRevol is, but then we go into the type of business they are and what they want to be. Really impressive co-founder. I really like the story of moving from Pakistan to the US, building a really successful business over there, and then how they did market entry here in the last couple of years. You may know them, they're just new in the market, but we're talking about the services industry, digital transformation, and again, how to do kind of market entry and how to kind of disrupt an industry in a way. So enjoy the conversation. Welcome back to another episode of Dubai Works Business Podcast. This week, I'm back in the studio and we're joined by another founder and a co-founder and CMO guest on the show today. He is Abeer Raza of TekRevol, and he will explain all what TekRevol is. But basically, they're a digital solutions provider. They initiated with the aim to provide tech enthusiasts with a platform to create innovative and meaningful digital solutions that create an impact. So we're going to hear the history of the company, the solutions they provide, the breadth and the length and breadth of the offering that they have and how they're moving into the future, the competition, the industry, and also their plans and expansion and the presence that they are around the world. Good morning.
Morning.
Abeer, how are you?
Thanks for having me. Yeah.
So thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
So co-founder and CMO of TekRevol, what is your role and what is the company?
I guess my role is pretty much everything that happens under the sun in the company. So it's when you're the co-founder, you kind of have to do pretty much everything, especially when you start from scratch. So, I've wiped the floors at one time and, played HR, played admin, played pretty much every department until I found what works for me best, which is marketing. I kind of happened into the career, not really, now it's more like a serial entrepreneur. I'd say my LinkedIn profile says that, but it wasn't always like this. And I guess the way we came up was more from a need perspective. Like we saw the need in the industry, which was pretty saturated even at that time, like mobile applications and technology solutions has been around for the past 50 years or so. So it wasn't really a new, idea or a new approach. But one of the needs that we saw was being client-centric, understanding what the needs of the clients are and what exactly is it that they're looking for, which they sometimes don't even know. So for us, when we got started, I was working at a consulting firm. So, a lot of talking, not a lot of doing. And I realized early on that the focus there was to drive revenue for the company and not really care about what the clients want or need. So, and, having worked in, different startups in tech, I kind of realized that was like a generic sort of way that they approach things. So we found
consultancy firms or the tech startups? Consultancy firms.
So that was my first consulting experience, but before that was more technology services companies. So I kind of realized that, sticking around in that space would not really fulfill what we wanted to do. Hence the name TekRevol, Technology Revolution. So, I guess, as I said, like it was more of a need that we saw that, what if we were to build a company around, the clients, build a company around providing a service that provided value for the clients and partnering with them. What could we create? And I think 5 years down the road, we're a $10 million company and expanding pretty drastically. So
Amazing. So 5 years done. So 10 million in services. So 2021 revenue, 10 million in revenue services from the solutions that you provide for your clients.
Yeah, exactly.
It's quite impressive. And your background before that, when did you come to Dubai? What did you study? And at what stage were you when you set up this business?
I did my MBA in marketing. I mean, I could have just, stayed home for 4 years and it wouldn't have mattered anyways, because honestly, an MBA doesn't really teach you much. But, in essence, I guess in terms of the background, like as I said, like I've been involved in tech companies from before, quite a few tech companies. And I guess that's what taught me on how to deliver performance-driven solutions and, how to essentially express value to clients and sort of productize different services. But in essence, I think my real experience came from, working with clients in the US onshore and directly sort of engaging with them and understanding their core problems. So, hence the revolution aspect or technology transformation as a whole, where you have to really embed yourself as more like an analyst when you're studying their industry, studying their framework, and really understand exactly what their core problem is and how can you solve it with technology. So and honestly, like, people talk about technology and how it's taking jobs and stuff, but you have to realize that there's a huge human element to this. And at its core, even technology is human focused, human centric. So that's what we try to drive with TekRevol, and that's kind of been my experience so far as well. That if you can just connect with the human component within a business, there's a lot that you can achieve.
Okay, so where was the first office? Was it in Dubai?
No, we set up our first office in Newark, California, and because obviously it's Silicon Valley tech hub and all that stuff. So, but we expanded pretty soon into Houston and then New York and a couple other places. In fact, we had just recently started up our Ukraine office, which we had to kind of roll back a little bit.
Would that have been an office to serve the Ukrainian market or to serve your other offices?
More of a production house for us. Not really serving the Ukraine market. We thought about it initially, but it was too late. The war started like a few months later. So, we had to roll it back. But it's interesting how, I mean, my perception of Ukraine changed completely when I went to Kiev and I saw how, mobile payments was just like insane there. Like, and even I would even compare it to US. Like, it's not as much proliferated as it is in Kiev. It's a super budding entrepreneurial hotbed.
Yeah.
And the same in Dubai, like, there's so many digital touch points for a new normal consumer that I would say that 80% of their life revolves around technology, even if they don't notice it. Like, Uber, your Uber Eats, or any of the other technology sectors like banking. So even like, how, the metro works here, like, who would have imagined 10 years ago or 15 years ago having the, you can use your Knoll card with your taxis, with everything so integrated. So yeah, it's interesting.
And when did you open the Dubai office?
It's been a year. We're going to be running up to a second year in Feb.
Okay. So Feb 2021. And why Dubai?
So we started by exhibiting in GITEX last year in October, and that was a very interesting.
Oh, you just started in Feb this year? No,
Feb of last year, 2021 Feb.
Yeah. And so okay. And then the year before you were at GITEX?
Yeah, in October last year, we were at GITEX as an exhibitor, and to see kind of, and even before exhibiting there, we had come in as, just as guests before to kind of see how the Dubai landscape was evolving, and it was right in front of us. Like, for the past couple of years, we've been noticing how Dubai is taking into tech as, fish takes into water. It's like, it was made for it. Like, it's a thriving city with very futuristic, approaches. And the way, everything is evolving using technology as a vehicle, I would say it's the next Silicon Valley, honestly. So it was nonsensical for us to not do something here, honestly. So that's what brought us here. Okay.
And the Pakistan part of it, do you have an office there? Do you have?
Yeah, we have 200 people in Pakistan.
Okay.
And we have several offices there. We're actually setting up an office. We have our main office in Karachi, but we're setting up another one in Lahore. And then there's Kiev. Then we're setting up an office in Turkey. We have a few offices in the US. So, it's a pretty diverse team.
So the main business from, say, 2017 was serving clients in the US, doing a lot of the development work in Pakistan. Because you know Pakistan, you know the region, you were aware of Dubai, and it made sense to have the office here, and it kind of evolved that way.
Yeah. So initially the idea was to make Dubai a beachhead for most of our clients, even in the US or Saudi and other places. But then when we started getting around and we started to kind of feel out, what the market has to offer, our focus has shifted now. So we're hiring about 20 people here, hopefully this year. We've already taken up an office space, a pretty large one, in DMCC. So now the focus is to kind of make this more of a hybrid between a production place as well as a client-facing company, because we're seeing a lot of business come in, and again, just the landscape itself. So we're now thinking more in terms of how we can make it into an incubator / accelerator, similar to like Y Combinator. In fact, that's we launched TekRevol Ventures last month, just from that focus perspective. And what we want to do is kind of have a collaboration between investors in the US and seed capitalists in the US, and bring up talent and startups here in Dubai, and then kind of take them in the US or essentially launch them here as well. And there's so many examples that you can see around you where products came up in just last couple of years, and they've Kareem and so many others. So it's a pretty, fast-paced market.
You're very much involved in the startup space as well. But just going back to the makeup of the current services and offering of the total revenue at the moment, what's the split? What's the bulk of your commercial offering?
So I think overall, if you look at it, with how I guess you could say in terms of like the decline in terms of country economies overall, with the whole world facing sort of a meltdown in terms of finances. We're seeing a lot of demand for staff augmentation, surprisingly. Like our business is booming.
Augmentation or automation?
Sorry. No, augmentation. So for example, let's say you're a large organization who has trouble hiring developers, especially in this very hyper competitive market. Like developers can get jobs like in days now, right? So and there's during COVID, there's this everybody wants to be an entrepreneur kind of thing. So it's left a lot of offices empty. So we're seeing a lot of demand from large organizations that want to create incubation teams where they can run product iterations fast.
Interesting.
So it's all, focused on hyper growth and hyper, testing and sort of getting out there. So an agile framework mixed a little bit with lean startup methodology. We're seeing a lot of that. So we've got multi-billion-dollar clients coming to us and saying, hey, we want a team of 10 developers, and we want them to, be a hybrid between working from our office as well as working offshore. And then what we want to do is we have a list of these products that we want to roll out, test out in the market, and then whichever works, then we do a full-scale version, or not, we scrap it and move on. So we're seeing a lot of that where companies are, taking outside teams and then kind of embedding them into their structure, all the while making sure that their internal bureaucracies don't get involved. So, yeah.
Okay, interesting. So it's not the typical sort of services agency model. It's more like if a company has a tech solution that they need, they can come with consultancy. They can come to you with an idea, but essentially you're going to help them build that as if they're outsourcing it.
Yeah, internally. So we would work with CTOs in the company. We would work with CFOs. We work with CEOs to kind of understand what their direction is and where they want to head. My focus in terms of making a technology transformation company has always been to understand the core value that you're trying to drive for the business. So let's say Augustus Media, wants to kind of pursue supremacy in the broadcasting space, and its competitors are Mashable or TechCrunch or all the others. So we want to come in and see what are the processes that we can automate so that you can get there faster. We want to see how can we, mass market by using more channels than you currently have. We want to see how we can scale the ones or tweak the ones that you currently have, and then give you a plan that is tailored to your needs. So it's not a cookie cutter solution. We're not like normal consultancy firm that we come in with like billable hours, like charge you thousands of dollars just to understand the problem. No, that's all something that we want to achieve ourselves, because as you mentioned in the introduction as well, we're technology enthusiasts. Like we really love what we do. And because we love what we do, we can waive off a lot of charges because, understanding a certain industry is reward in its own self, because you can take that knowledge and be a technology leader in that space.
Yeah, it makes sense. And from the sectors, I assume that you're sector agnostic, but what would take up most of your work at the moment? Is it startup space, or is it, a particular area? Is it government? Is it FMCG? Is it like what's this kind of sector breakdown?
Yeah, so we're kind of changing the way we're doing business right now. As I mentioned, the ventures part of it, and the reason being because before, like I think back in 2020, it used to be 80-20, like in terms of startups, making up 80% of our revenue base, and enterprise companies making up 20%.
Okay,
and we're pivoting more towards a 80-20, except we're flipping it, where 80% makes up enterprise clients, because majorly because we've got some big names that we worked with, and a lot of PR that has actually driven us in front of, C-level executives in large organizations. So we're seeing a lot more of that. And obviously, like, as I mentioned, the trend of the world, like shifting and companies really demanding this service. Like we have to literally turn away projects now. So now the focus is that the revenue that we get from startups, which is, projected to be 20%, needs to shift more from a revenue perspective to an equity perspective, where we want to bring in startups and not charge them anything, and essentially take sweat equity, and then, take their product and see how we can scale it with them, and then get investors from abroad and sort of keep going and seed Series A, Series B, Series C. I think that's a more sustainable approach overall.
It's a different business model though, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I think that's where the long-term growth is. Like, because, we meet a lot of entrepreneurs and we see a lot of potential in their ideas, but they seem to always, end up doing the wrong things eventually.
They don't execute well because they don't have the tech development experience that you might have.
I think it goes a little bit beyond the tech development experience. It's more so about, so again, maybe I'm coming from marketing standpoint because I'm a CMO, but understanding your customer's need is critical. Like, technology is just a platform. What is the problem that you're trying to solve? Most of the times what we see is, entrepreneurs would get a little bit creative with their ideas and sort of start to solve everybody's problem and not really focusing on their core customer. So what happens is you have a bloatware, that you're putting out in the space, and it's trying to compete with everybody and trying to take on everybody without any marketing budget, without any sort of buyer persona or any sort of research done behind it. And then eventually it fails because it didn't really click. So we're starting to see more and more that an MVP based approach is a better idea. And then essentially, whenever you get to a point where you need to scale, you need investors, you need help, you need networking, you need PR.
But do you think that, the incubator sort of, model and the startup, the Y Combinator, that's a model, right? And sometimes if people are doing a service industry like your business, you're probably at 15-20% operating margin, and you're kind of going, well, if we own some of these companies that are successful, the upside could be far greater. However, the thing that you're good at is the thing that's made you this revenue so far. And then if you spray around, if you own lots of pieces of lots of companies and none of them are successful, you might not have what made you successful in the first place, which is the revenue that you're generating.
Yeah, that's very true. I think, so, I mean, I'll give a little bit of a history lesson on my part. I'm sorry about that. But when I started off with TekRevol, as I mentioned, I was working in a consulting firm. A decent pay, like I was making about $5,000 at that time, like 26, 25, working in the US, having graduated from Pakistan, never left Pakistan the first time, leaving to the US and working there for a Fortune 500 company. It was a pretty cool thing,
Nice.
a dream job. And then when I got there, I realized that everything that I really wanted to do, I would just not be able to accomplish it because it was somebody else's leadership, it was somebody else's ideas, and being stuck in a rat race where I had to do what I had to do was just not fulfilling. So I left that job and I started the company. And the only thing that I had at that time was $1,000 that I'd saved up, and I invested that into the company. And my partner did the same thing. So we started this with $2,000.
So there's just two founders at the
Yes.
start. Yeah.
Asim Reis he's our CTO and the co-founder as well. So we started the company with $2,000 in the bank, and getting to 10 million has been super difficult, yes, but honestly, not as much. So the reason I'm telling this history is because we came from nothing, and we don't care if we have to end up there. You have to have that same. So I had this conversation with a
Nice.
really interesting gentleman. He owns a $100 million company, part of YEC, Young Entrepreneurs Community, that I'm also part of. So, his lesson to me was that if you're going after a whale, if you're trying to feed yourself with fish all the time, then that's fine. You always stay, full. But then if you're going after a whale, like Captain Ahab, right, you have to make yourself super hungry. Like you will eventually starve yourself. You'll have a very, very small crew that you'll go out in the seas with. And, there's going to be storm. There's going to be a lot of things. Eventually, maybe, perchance, you'll get it. Otherwise, you'll starve. But the point here is that if you fill up your boat with a bunch of people and, you're always feeding yourself with small, small fish, you're never going to get the whale because you're full. Why would you need it? So my point here is that, we want to be the next unicorn, $1 billion valuation. We're not going to get there as a tech company offering services to client, unless you're Accenture, been there for 200 years or something.
You could though. There are marketing services listed on stock market that have $1 billion valuations. WPP used to have a $20 billion valuation. Like you could, if you're the best in the world, if all these global companies that need that outsourcing thing, if you look at, and we'll talk about the industry, but people in the services industry that's not attractive to tech and it doesn't get the investment, but it can still have high valuations. So it can still be a business.
Yeah. So the companies you're referring to are a hybrid between a service and solution model, as well as a product as a service solution. So yes, you're right. There's there are companies that productize their services, automate some parts of it, and then essentially come out getting a valuation on the product itself with the MRR that they calculate. So yes, there is an approach that could get us there, and maybe that could get us there in the next 20 years or something. We don't want to wait that long. We're kind of impatient. So the easier way to go about this is to find the next idea that clicks, have quite a few of them, and then launch them in the market and be the connector. That's something that I've kind of noticed. So one of our clients used to be a private equity firm worth about $1 billion, been there about 15 years, called ZT Wealth. And, ZT Wealth. It's out in Houston. And what was interesting about them is they had created a vehicle for investment for doctors. That was their niche. And they would invest, that capital into like hospitals and different places and then give the returns back to doctors. What really caught my attention was that they had a team of about 20 or so people, and they were operating a company for about $1 billion. So imagine the per employee income that they were generating to kind of get to that point. But what's interesting here, and the comparison that I want to draw here, is that in order for you to scale up your revenue, you just have to work smarter, find the right fit, and find the right vehicle. There's a lot of capital out there that you can, sort of pull in if you can inspire people, if you can inspire investors to invest in startups that are scaling, that they see a product market fit in, they see that this can take a certain market cap. You can do a lot, but you obviously have to be invested. If you go to an investor and you're trying to gain investment for a product that you don't own, there's always that risk factor for investors that, hey, you're not invested in it. There's no stake in the game for you. So why would you stick around? So we have, put your money where your mouth is. So this is the only route that I see.
Interesting. So that sort of shift that's ongoing at the moment, how's that factoring into the offering that you have in Dubai? Is the team that you have here and the team that you're building here geared more towards the latter business model that you discussed?
Of course, yeah. So we have a partnerships manager that's coming in, I think mid of August, and we have a CMO that we're taking on board. She used to be country head for HP, so
your role would change.
Yeah, of course. So the idea here is that, what we want to, sorry, I kind of stressed that. So, in order for us to kind of make it successful, I realized that I have to invest more time here than the company that I started with. So I have to change my role. It's required at this stage. So, and that's what I said, like, we're all for getting to that space. So hence we're conducting podcasts, we're conducting pitch sessions, we're conducting interviews with influencers like yourself, and we definitely want to keep scaling that side of things. So one part of this is essentially an incubation model that we've sort of perfected on our side. We not only have one company that we've scaled in the past 5 years. In the past couple of years, we've scaled 4 other companies. TekRevol is now an Inc. 5000 winner, one of the fastest growing companies in the US. And the other ones are soon to kind of follow suit for the next year. We're hoping to submit them. So what we've realized, having incubated several other companies, is that it doesn't take a genius to kind of get there. You just have to have that entrepreneurial spirit to keep trying it, to keep pivoting. So we want to bring that into the mix here. And let me tell you another interesting part of TekRevol. So because we were just people that kind of started up, this company and didn't really have a lot of experience, we realized that other people could do the same thing. So all the partners that we have in other businesses, they're either employees or they're people that we've just kind of met, friends and people like that, colleagues, that have kind of joined hands with us and started their own ventures. So they're CEOs in their own sort of companies. So what we've realized is that, you don't have to have a certain sort of, understanding of business. You don't have to have a certain sense of experience. No, you don't need all of that. All you need is that spirit of entrepreneurship where, you're just going to keep pivoting and keep trying until it works. So what we want to do now is bring in more entrepreneurs from our company as well as outside, and then bring them more towards ourselves and sort of invest capital, invest technology services, and then connect them with our network of investors as well as influencers and stuff. So that's something
interesting. So moving a little bit into the industry, if someone from the outside is listening to this conversation, they might try and make sense of where TekRevol sits, and they might think of, say, on one side, they might think of, I got an app developed by a specialist company once. They were a digital agency. They pitched for the business. They showed UX UI. They did project management. They delivered it or something like that. And then someone else might go, I'm part of a big company and we needed a product built. So, not necessarily a big company because sometimes they have red tape on this, but we need a product built. So we went online, we went to Fiverr, we went to Upwork. There was a lot of salespeople there. There's a lot of people pushing ideas. It ended up being done in an office in a low cost kind of, developing country around the world. And there are a lot of those companies. So is that how you would describe the industry that TekRevol was sort of disrupting? You've got your traditional, sort of well-known digital agencies, and then you've got this sort of development houses around the world that a lot of people would get cheaper work done by. Do you lean on one side or the other, or are you kind of in the middle?
Right. So that's an interesting question, by the way, because that's what I sort of thought about way initially when we started the company. Because when we started it, the model that would work generally is that you do PPC, you get leads, and then you convert them, and then you work on them, and that's it. And then what my research told me way at the start was that on PPC, it's mostly chop shops that are kind of advertising themselves, and because the Google takes a large percentage of their revenue, so they have to kind of cut back costs, and those costs are normally associated with bad production. So, most of the times you would see companies that would they would raise the expectation but under deliver by a substantial margin. So, in fact, one of our clients just came to us in Dubai, and they were like, I've got a quote from a company that's doing it in 1 month. I was like, how about you come back to us in a month and let's see what happens. So that happens a lot. And honestly, if that's the expectation that clients have, and I'm sorry, I'm sort of pivoting, but, sort of want to make sure that I address this. You have to, like product market fit with a product. You also have to have a customer fit with a company. So if a culture matches, if their understanding matches with yours, then it's a perfect marriage. If it doesn't, it's never going to work. And we've had those clients and those products that have stretched for years and years and years where the clients don't even know what they want. And it just keeps going. It's adding cost to us. It's always better to say no at the start and let those people go. So the reason I say this is because when you're mass marketing, when you're just going out there on the digital platform and just, showing that you're the top app development company, which is, I think everybody is a top app development company now. But if you're doing that, then you're going to get a lot of clients that you can't say no to because you've already incurred a lot of costs. You've already spent $25,000 on Google, and then you have to make those margins and you have to make those things meet. So you can't say no to a client. With us, our approach was always to have physical presence, to have people, onshore, project managers, business analysts, production leads, and all those other people that can actually bring value to the client and augment that digitally. So when we started off, initially we started with a partner who was based in California and used to attend networking events and PR, and, they would sort of feel out the client, understand exactly whether or not they would be a good fit. And then we would start the project. So that understanding really helped us get, I think, about 55, almost 5-star reviews on Clutch, one of the highest in the industry. That understanding got us several Fortune 100 companies to work with. That understanding got us out of that rat race of, just spending on Google and trying to recoup the costs from. So even right now, our costs on digital, completely is undershadowed by the cost that we spend on PR and other avenues. So we're not even competing with those companies that are chop shops because honestly, we don't want to. If you start doing that, if you start compromising on our quality of production, then it's a slippery slope. Then it's downhill from there. On the other hand, we understand that the big players are able to offer more value, and we're always trying to stretch ourselves and strive to deliver that value. And one of the good things is that because of our offshore offices, we are able to keep the cost down. We are able to get exceptional team of developers. In fact, we've taken up, we've signed MOUs with the top universities in Pakistan, to get candidates right there when they're fresh and not radicalized by, other, companies and hone them into the skills that the tech revolutionaries need. And we are super focused on our culture. In fact, just last month, we were part of a event that was held with disabled children and in an organization which we were part of. So it's the idea here is that, in order for you to build culture, in order for you to build a sustainable culture, it has to have a purpose. And being a purpose-driven company gives you a lot of leverage in terms of pursuing your ideas and, having people being passion driven towards it. And when that passion combines with technology, combines with social influence, it does something beautiful.
So just picking up on that's a really interesting answer, and thanks for explaining. I understand it. I'm relating it to marketing. You mentioned earlier that the MBA was sort of worthless for you, which was, some people listening might get triggered by that, but not me, but I'm just picking up on the marketing aspect of it. So you studied marketing, and what you've described there is quite a strategic view of business development led by marketing. And it's quite impressive, right? And it obviously is core of one of the reasons why the company has been successful. What many companies that you say compete with don't have a marketing team. They might have a business development team, but you have a marketing team. You describe that answer with a marketing view, yet you think the MBA was worthless.
So, the reason for that is very simple. The time we're living in, everything is digital, and I mean so digital that honestly, the word digital can't even catch up with it anymore. It's crazy. Like we've all seen Web 3.0. We've all seen the rise, and I guess bit of a fall for crypto and other sort of ventures that are coming in, and it's going to come back because at the end of the day, that's the route to go. That is how it's going to be. Financial markets are going to transform, and it's going to happen. I'm a big believer on that. Okay. And NFTs as an art form. So it's like the syllabus that we have back in Pakistan in MBAs is so dated. And it's not just, perhaps not even Pakistan. Like you see all these universities, people are being taught by 50, 60-year-old people that, I think if you try to explain them what an NFT is, they would pull their hair and just like call you mad. So it's not really conducive to, somebody who wants to think outside the box. Everything that you learn in an MBA is how to fit inside the box. They don't train entrepreneurs. They train employees that are going to give their lives to companies for 20, 30 years. And that's what the focus is. Unfortunately, that's how it is. It might not be the same here in Dubai because I've seen, every person that I meet here, in Dubai, comes with like years of experience in like, a sort of, a mixture of like old school and new school, blended together because they're seeing it happen in front of them. And the kids are growing up. They have their mobile phones and they're kind of like engaged in technology. And, I have a lot of friends that are like side trading on crypto and NFTs and things like that. So, it's a lot more robust and it's a lot more vibrant. In Pakistan, unfortunately, that's not the case. So the MBA degree taught me like consumer behavior and, running media buying on the news and things like that. Come on. Like that's so like, I mean, look at Smashy TV. So like, the way you guys are disrupting the industry, I'm sure you didn't learn that from an MBA. So it is what it is.
Yeah. And it's interesting to talk about education in that way. I think definitely people will relate to the syllabus not being relevant for startups and a conflict between an entrepreneur and the education system. I get that. But at the same point, there is that sort of exploration phase of a young mind, figuring things out with discipline through education that ends up getting a well-paid job in the US and founding a successful business. Maybe those things, but definitely, there's a lot of entrepreneurs out there who don't go down the traditional, education route as well. But yeah, it's just interesting to get your views on it. So, talking a little bit about the region, you're in Dubai a couple of years. You originally grew up in Pakistan. What's your view of the Middle East as an emerging market? I think you mentioned digital, and it does seem like this region is really ripe for digital. It seems to be, not just with other people looking at it from an investment opportunity, but the landscape and the makeup of the region seems to be really suited towards innovation and digital solutions. Are you optimistic and bullish about the region?
Yeah, of course. I think the way Dubai has transformed, as a rising force in the world, I think technology has a really, really big part to play in it. So, I mean, a little bit of an interesting perspective. Houston, which is one of the top earners in terms of like overall GDP in the US, does not have a metro system, does not have transportation system. So it's public buses. So, and everything, and we have an office there. So it's hell. Like if you're living in downtown, then, that's all. I mean, you can survive. If you're living outside, then there's like an hour and a half long commute. The reason I say that is because of technology and how embedded it has become in the whole sinew of Dubai. It's, everything is like half an hour away maximum. And we don't even think about it, but it gives you, unlocks so much potential in the workforce that, just getting to someplace, really fast and not really caring about commute or all the other sort of factors that are hygiene issues, like, the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, something I learned from MBA. So the basic necessities of people here are completely met. So they're already touching that self-actualization phase where they're like, okay, how do I make my mark here? How do I make, and Dubai, sort of like New York, if you think about it, tests you, really throws you down and tells you that, okay, you're nothing. You might have achieved something big. And, when we came here, we had their perception, okay, we're really big in US and we're going to be really big here because, I mean, come on, like 55 reviews on Clutch and like Inc. 5000 and so many other sort of experiences. There's no reason why we can't make it big here, but no, that wasn't the case. So we had to start from scratch. So Dubai has that, it really tests you and puts you at that place where you have to claw your way out. And I've seen that with so many different people. And I keep sharing this example with our Pakistan team that every person that I interview, I'm like, I so want to hire this guy because like he's brilliant. Like the top of the top people from, Africa, from Europe, from even US and Australia come here to work. So they're not just like, like coming to New York because they want to settle down and have a family and have kids. They're coming here to excel. That's all they want to do. So imagine having that sort of, draining that brain from all the different countries, bringing them here, giving them all the opportunities that they need to have to excel, making sure their hygiene issues are met, making sure that they have a clear focus towards the future. How is that? I mean, there's no possible way that it's not going to succeed. So
amazing. Good answer. And I like how you related it to the sort of cutthroat approach or cutthroat view that people might have of New York, because Dubai is like that. It's unforgiving in many ways, promises a lot, but you really do need to earn it here as well. And it shows that, it shows a character strength of yours that you've been able to do that here and not been too egotistical and saying, hey, we're the big American guys or whatever. But, so that's cool. We all get Dubai. Dubai's great. But do you think that can spill over the UAE, the economy? You obviously know Pakistan well, but, not talking about sort of politics or other, but just in terms of the region and, the opportunity for other countries in the region to grow in the same way as the UAE?
I think it's definitely become an example for a lot of different countries. We've all seen how, like Saudi is kind of taking that same direction in terms of pivoting away from oil and getting more sustainable. We're seeing the same thing happen in Qatar. We're seeing the same thing happen in Bahrain and other places. We have an office in Doha as well, by the way. And we're setting up another one in Riyadh. So it's definitely become a sort of, I gave this example earlier where, people in the US have a general perception of how people are in the Middle East or in general in Asia. But when you talk about Dubai, their views completely change, like their perspective shifts. They want to come to Dubai. So, the safety aspect of Dubai that it offers, the sort of freedom to like do whatever you want and achieve whatever you want has really set itself as a benchmark for a lot of countries that are nearby and abroad as well. Like this country, evolved in the last 40 years into a powerhouse. There is no country like this. So it's not, an example. Honestly, like I would love to read more books about Dubai and figure out like how it happened as a more of an economical mindset. But it's it's difficult to replicate, and come like when you consider that it didn't really have oil well to start with, it's difficult to replicate. There are countries that are trying, but just, I mean, think of the entrepreneurship part, right? I think there's about 100,000 golden visas that are being offered to entrepreneurs to kind of, set up businesses here. Which country can actually do that? Like, I think because of the ruler, he has, I feel like he has an entrepreneurial mindset himself, having like the Silicon Oasis, or, having the production city and all these others. Like, imagine the ingenuity behind it, where you're actually like making cities within a city, and, and I was thinking about it, like, you go to Design City in Dubai, and it has a certain vibe to it. You go to Production City, it has a certain vibe to it. Every company, it's almost like they're given a brand snap, toolkit of how the offices need to look like, how the roads need to look like. So that requires very, very, very long-term thinking, where you're thinking 50 years ahead into what needs to happen. And, you have sustainable city, which I've heard so much about. So it's difficult to do unless you have that mindset, right from the top. And in a way, it's actually good, the way Dubai is structured, where, the idea is flowing from one end, and there are also other brains that are kind of contributing towards it. Because otherwise, you can't force that change. It has to be something that, comes through a lot of hard work, a lot of, good mindset, and just focus.
Interesting. So, last question, TekRevol, the last sort of 5 years will probably be different to the next 5. And, talking about the region, trying to understand what you mentioned about the sort of, incubator approach versus servicing, corporate clients and bigger companies. If you went to Riyadh tomorrow and you had 10 meetings, would you prefer those 10 meetings to be with giga projects, semi-state companies, or 10 startups?
Oh, that's a very, very loaded question.
Well, it's just interesting to know, you know what I'm getting at. Like, where's the focus? Like, are you growing this company by helping the existing money, whether it's a public investment fund or whatever, create their projects? Or are you going and meeting the startups that don't have any funding that might just have the next big idea?
So I think, in general, the way I make my decisions at this stage, because I own the company, is based on interest. So, I'm as much interested as meeting a startup founder and discussing their next big idea and their inspiration, their passion, and sort of feeding from that, almost like a social vampire, and letting that be my fuel to kind of drive me towards my goals, and also helping them, achieve theirs in the same time. As I am interested in, sitting with CTOs and CIOs and CEOs and figure out what the main problem is, which is causing them a lot of distress. So, when you say startup and you say a big company, yes, they're two opposite sides of the coin. But in many ways, they're very similar, and in many ways, they should be more similar. Because what we've seen with examples like Apple, and I know it's like really old news, pretty much everybody who's listening would know that. But, with companies like Apple and Google and IBM, they all started from a garage, and everybody knows these stories. But what we fail to understand is that, if you read Steve Jobs' biography, you'll kind of see that as well, that they have divisions within their company that operate in silos as startups. And then they incubate those divisions, and then they iterate those divisions, and then eventually, when it comes to it, they scale them and then embed them into the organization itself. I think more enterprise organizations need to understand that mindset for them to get out of that whole, we know what we're good at, and we're just going to keep doing that. Because we've seen what happened to Polaroid. We've seen what happened to so many organizations that became extinct because they weren't able to change with time. And the way things are, changing drastically now, where you have 20-year-olds that are millionaires just for investing in Bitcoin, you have to change with the time. So, what I meant to say was that I'm interested equally between meeting with startups as I am with enterprise companies. But I would like for enterprise companies to start also calling themselves startups.
Brilliant. All right. Pleasure listening to you this morning, Abeer. And we'll follow TekRevol online and see how you expand in the region.
Perfect. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. That was a great chat with Abeer. Really good to get to know his thoughts and views on the landscape and how he's building TekRevol. Definitely kind of interesting seeing how founders make decisions and how they continue to grow businesses. So yeah, the service industry, digital, hopefully people in that area got a lot of value out of that conversation. I'd like to thank again Shahir for pulling together all the things that behind the scenes to put the show together, and Ali for producing it live this morning. And you can, if you're listening on the podcast, you can please subscribe and follow on Angami, Spotify, Podio, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can watch on smashy.tv, download the apps. We're rolling out more and more smart TV apps as we go. Check your smart TV, check for Smashy. If it's not there now, let us know and we'll try and get it on in the next month or so. I mentioned at the start that we have a really good guest next week. He really is. He's a Singaporean-based founder of One Championship, which is the UFC of Asia, and it's a brilliant story. And I'm, looking forward to listening back to that one myself, because he's really kind of built something special over there, and they'll be in the region as well soon. So yeah, I hope you're enjoying your summer. I hope you're enjoying this podcast. Keep in touch. Let us know if you'd like any guests on, as usual, and we'll have one next week, and we'll be, as usual, 11 a.m. on Friday mornings. Dubai Works will be you can count on it weekly as your podcast. Have a good week.